Welcome to TSP. I am Dr. Evil Genius here with a follow-up video to a video that I made a couple of days ago at the time of this recording. Put a little bit of satire announcing that the Los Angeles Dodgers had basically signed all All-Star level players to their team. And this was on the heels of Tanner Scott, one of the very best relief pitchers in all of Major League Baseball, signing with their team. And now, as I sit here recording this video now, Kirby Yates, another of the upper echelon relievers, also agreed to terms with the Los Angeles Dodgers. So this is all on the heels of Roki Sasaki basically pretending that other teams were on the list, but we kind of already knew he was going to go to the Dodgers. And don't really have a problem with that, except for one thing that he said that I'll get into later. But I really want to put the spotlight on you, the viewers, because we really do appreciate the dialogue that our viewers bring to this platform, which is why we created the platform in the first place. Yeah, we do like making videos on a bunch of different topics, but the interactions with the viewers is really what we enjoy here. Okay, so I've decided to review some of the comments that I thought were worth replying to. So, some of the, you mad and all that stuff. Okay, all right, cool. You're not really going to engage with us in actual debate conversation. But some guys really did have some really good points, and I wanted to make sure that their comments were not just lost to the comment section, but highlighted here on the channel, because these are people who responded that really do deserve to be highlighted. So I'm going to get through these comments, and I'm going to respond to the comments. I'm not really going to read too much about what I responded with, because, I'm going to probably reiterate some of the points that I made in the comment section anyway. First up, we have Todd Davis. Todd Davis is probably the reason that I wanted to make this video. So shout out to you. I will make sure you're tagged in this video. Thank you so much for the back and forth that really added a lot to the discussion, because I really enjoyed the discussion. Todd Davis, his first comment said, "Not a good thing. The Dodgers just showed the rest of MLB the blueprint of how their team should be run. When Guggenheim bought the team in 2012 from Frank McCourt, they were an absolute disaster. The Dodgers were in bankruptcy and couldn't even make payroll. The entire organization from top to bottom was in shambles. When Guggenheim took over, they rebuilt the organization from the bottom up, hiring top-level executives, trainers, coaches, analysts, upgraded training facilities, upgraded the minor league ballparks, upgraded the stadium multiple times. They took the time to develop young talent and now have one of the deepest farm systems. With this foundation in place, they used a talent pool to trade for superstar Mookie Betts. They didn't spend a lot on free agents until Freddie Freeman became available. Even then, they were mostly a homegrown team and filled in the rest with players on short-term deals. Knowing they were going to go all in on Ohtani in 2024, once they landed Shohei, that's when they all went in signing anyone who would help them win, knowing they only have a few years in Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman's and Shohei Ohtani's primes. The Dodgers are proof that when ownership invests in an organization, other players will want to come to you and even take less money to come to you. Look at what Cohen is trying to do. Last year, instead of building up the farm system and securing his base, he went out and spent mega bucks on free agents. Being the smart businessman that he is, he pivoted from that strategy, traded away all the huge contracts for prospects, and hired Stearns to run the team more like the Dodgers. That resulted in a huge turnaround for the Mets. Now they are one of the top teams in the league and are going to be a place where free agents will want to sign once Stearns sets things right in the organization. What the Dodgers are doing is absolutely a good thing, and other teams should be doing the same. That's good for baseball. So I'm going to take this from piece by piece here. I do remember when the Dodgers were a disaster, and Frank McCourt had some family scandal thing going on. If I'm not mistaken, some cheating in a relationship thing. I don't know. It was some really, really bad. I think there was a divorce in there, an expensive divorce in there too, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember them not being able to make payroll. So yeah, the Dodgers did do everything right. I will say that the Mookie Betts trade should have never been made from the Boston Red Sox side of things. That was a horrible deal, but again, you can't blame the Dodgers for that. The Freddie Freeman situation, Freddie Freeman should have never even been available to the Dodgers. Freddie Freeman's agent did not do his duty in informing Freddie Freeman of the offer that the Atlanta Braves were willing to make to keep their homegrown player. And something is up with that agent, and he ended up getting fired. But that was a stroke of luck in the Dodgers' favor, especially when you look at a lot of the contracts that are being signed for first baseman. Freddie Freeman's deal is almost a bargain, dollars-wise, in my opinion. Getting Ohtani in 2024, I mean, yeah, that's really cool. But they spent $70 million for a DH, at least in year one. So getting Shohei Ohtani, I think that they knew, even though they were going to be paying $70 million a year, that they would be able to get extra revenue to recoup that money and probably get even more value than just $70 million a year. I think that the Dodgers actually profited, especially since they won the World Series in 2024. So the Shohei Ohtani signing was good for the Los Angeles Dodgers, but bad for baseball. More on that later. The Dodgers are proof that when ownership invests in an organization, other players want to come to you and to even take less money. Yeah, I have no problem with that. But when you look at what Cohen was doing, he went out and spent mega bucks on free agency because he had just purchased the team from some piece of shit owners that he was co-owners with. He used to own about 20% of the New York Mets and then put up $2.4 billion to then take over the rest of the team so that they could, stop fucking up the organization. He wanted to make sure that he showed the fans the commitment to winning, and you can't build up a farm system the day that you buy the team. So he was willing to overpay coming into the ownership ranks with the eye that they were going to hire competent front office guys. The problem that the Mets had is that they wanted to hire a manager who was responsible for the Astro cheating scandal in Carlos Beltran. They hired a GM who was accused of DUI. No, wait, that was the second guy they hired. The first guy they hired was accused of sending inappropriate communications to female staffers at a stop before he was at the New York Mets. So they had to fire him, Me Too reasons. And then the other guy was charged with a DWI. He lost his job. The charges ended up being dropped, but didn't matter. So Cohen tried to hire the right guys that were available at the time, and they, just could not get the GM that they wanted. They wanted the former GM of the Boston Red Sox to help them, Theo Epstein. They wanted to try to get Theo Epstein and take him from the Chicago Cubs, but when he left, he just decided that he didn't want to be a GM anymore. But that was the guy that Steve Cohen wanted. So it's not like the Mets were making bad decisions under Steve Cohen's ownership. Is that they had incredibly bad luck when trying to fill certain key senior personnel roles. We ended up with Stearns, who was a really smart guy, grew up as a Mets fan and a whole bit. I get it. But the problem with David Stearns is that David Stearns thinks that David Stearns is the smartest man on the planet. He thinks he's the smartest baseball mind on the planet.
Is the smartest person in this whole dang school. Yeah.
And he is drawing out negotiations that are A, detrimental to the spirit of the team. And I'm talking about the Pete Alonso negotiation, how long it's strung out. And I think that it's also really bad for the team because them trying to lowball after giving away an $805 million contract to Juan Soto, trying to nickel and dime Pete Alonso like this is sending a bad message to the players around the league. And, you know, if you're going to treat one of your homegrown guys who hit 53 home runs as a rookie and won the home run derby, and, you know, he's such a positive teammate and everybody loves him, and you're going to nickel and dime him and he's still not signed. Now we're in the second half of January and pitchers and catchers are about to report. This is just not, it's just not good. So I'm going to push back on this, oh my God, Stearns is so great. The dude has done more dumpster diving than signing quality players. We could have signed Blake Snell instead of the Dodgers. But instead, he wanted to sign a guy who had one of the worst ERAs of all the starting pitchers in the league in Frankie Montas. Instead of going out there and signing Corbin Burns so that we can be a formidable team at the top of our rotation, they signed a flamed out closer from the Yankees in Clay Holmes and then said, oh, we're going to try to turn you into a starting pitcher. So he's doing a lot of dumpster diving instead of going out there and getting quality players, basically ensuring we have zero chance to win the World Series. So yes, I'm not blaming the Dodgers. The Dodgers are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. But I have a very sneaky suspicion that the MLB owners have colluded to allow the Dodgers to do this as a way to implement a soft lockout on the players to try to drive the perception of competition in the league down, to get league revenue down, to force the Major League Baseball Players Association to accept a hard salary cap so that they can drive down the salary of players and make sure that they don't get their market value, which is something that I don't want. So while the Dodgers are not doing anything wrong, they're just signing the players that are available to them who are willing to negotiate with them and sign. The unintended consequences of all of this may lead to a league that all of us, including Dodgers fans, may have a lot less fun watching. I don't have as much fun watching the NBA or the NHL when we need to fill holes in our roster and we can't because there's a hard salary cap. I don't enjoy it as much. Now, you know, you could say that there's a little bit more parity and a little bit more excitement, but I think that pro sports is better with a group of haves and a group in the middle and then a group of have-nots. I think it's better that way. Where the MLB is at right now, it's one team has a chance to win and none of the other teams do, whether they're in the upper echelon, the middle, or if they're the homeless athletics. That's the problem that I have with the system. And I don't want the owners to be able to point to double-digit revenue drops across the league and then use that to force the players to accept the salary cap. That's the problem that I have with the Dodgers signing all of these all-star level players. It's not that I have a problem with the Dodgers. I think that there's collusion amongst the other owners. Todd Davis's next comment in response to what I had to say to him was, that's an interesting theory, but I don't think the Players Union would ever stand for a hard salary cap. And no matter how good the Dodgers look on paper, the other teams will be much more competitive than you might think. The Mariners in 2001 looked unstoppable, but got knocked off by the Yankees. And the 2022 Dodgers, who had on paper the best team in Major League Baseball, were eliminated in the first round by the Padres. And last season's Dodgers nearly lost to the Padres again. They still have to play 162 games, and I guarantee the ratings are going to be the highest ever this season because of the Dodgers. Just like when the Warriors dominated the NBA in the 2010s, the Bulls in the 1990s, and American professional football had their run, but it was always good for the sport. Baseball is the most difficult sport to repeat by far, and even if the Dodgers win a bunch of rings, no one's going to stop watching. In a few years, the Dodgers will fall off and another team will rise. By then, more owners will start reinvesting revenue into the team instead of pocketing it all. So a lot of good points made here, but I do want to push back on some of them. Number one, the Mariners did not have 14 all-star level players on their roster at one time. They looked unstoppable because they won a lot of games. Nobody expected the Mariners to win the games that they did. Nobody expected the 1997 Marlins to win the World Series. They were an expansion team. Nobody expected the 2003 Marlins to win the World Series. That's why it was so interesting. Nobody expected that to happen. While the Seattle Mariners did have some really nice, good players, they did not have 5 number 1 starters and all-star level players at almost every position on the diamond and have lockdown relievers 1 through 4. Their relievers have Cy Young votes. Their middle relievers have Cy Young votes. The Dodgers do. So even if they're not guaranteed to win the World Series, the perception from casual fans, where most of the revenue comes from in Major League Baseball. I know you diehards want to believe that you drive the league and you're the reason why the league exists. Absolutely not. There is no sports team, there's no sports league where the majority of the revenue comes from diehard fans. The majority of the revenues comes from the casuals. So for the uninitiated, a lot of them don't believe that if they look at what is going on, every 5 seconds the Dodgers sign another All-Star, another Cy Young Award candidate, another Silver Slugger Award winner. You know, they got multiple MVP candidates on one team. The perception is that, well, normally I have a dream that on opening day, everybody believes they can win the World Series, not in 2025. Not from the people I've talked to around the league. The only fan base that I've ever seen speak in the last month about their chances to win the World Series are Dodgers fans. Nobody else. Yankees fans, even the most annoying Yankee fans that I know are like, nope, no chance. You name any Major League Baseball team and you're going to hear Vince McMahon's walkout theme play. You mention any one of those teams. You talk to fan bases of the Minnesota Twins, the Diamondbacks, the Boston Red Sox, the Toronto Blue Jays, the Astros, the Texas Rangers. You ask the fan base, do you have a chance to beat the Dodgers? Almost every single person is going to say no. And if people believe that the season is already chalked. See, you Dodgers fans, I think that you guys all know that the season's chalked, but you want to have somebody to brag to. Let's just be real. You want to have somebody to brag to that your team is better than theirs. But if they already concede that your team is better than theirs, then where's the fun in talking shit? I know that I wouldn't be excited if the Mets won the World Series in 2025 with the Dodgers roster. There's a reason why people fell in love with the 2024 New York Mets. Nothing was expected from them. They started out the season 11 games under 500, 22-33. Nobody could hit. Our pitchers were walking batters left and right, could not get out of the 4th inning. And then a player who had not been in Major League Baseball in several years records a merengue song and then goes on to damn near hit near like 370 for like 3 months and then help bring the team out of the hole and sneak them into the playoffs and give somewhat of a Cinderella run. People want that kind of story. Not, oh, wow, there's a Hall of Famer at first base. There's a Hall of Famer at shortstop. There's a Hall of Famer at third base. They have a number 1 starter in the 1 position, the 2, the 3, the 4. They have 6. They could have 6 number 1 starters, 6 pitchers who would be number 1 starters on all the other teams in the league. except for the Yankees because they have Garrett Cole. But the Dodgers have at least 5 number 1 starters. We've never seen that before. The Kurt Schilling and Randy Johnson Arizona Diamondbacks. That was a top-heavy team. Luis Gonzalez on offense. There wasn't a whole lot after that. But we're talking about at least 14 all-star level players on the 26-man roster. That's more than 50% of your team. We're looking at an all-star game that you're going to see more Dodgers jerseys on the field at the all-star game than any other jersey. And when all of the all-stars all play on one team, yeah, all the Dodgers fans are going to watch. Not so much other teams when they don't have a player to represent them. Why care if you already know who's going to win before the games have started? That's the way people see it. And yeah, we want the owners to not pocket it all. And like you said, even if the Dodgers win a bunch of rings, nobody's going to stop watching. In a few years, the Dodgers will fall off, another team will rise up. The owners are counting on that. But before the Dodgers fall off, before that happens, the owners want to force the players into a situation where they look at falling league revenue league-wide. Not for the Dodgers. The Dodgers are going to turn a profit. Okay? They're going to have near sellouts every night. No doubt. But the rest of the league that will not play the Dodgers every night, because only one team can play the Dodgers on any given night, the other 29 teams are going to see double-digit revenue drops. And they're going to be able to say, look at the attendance numbers, down. Revenue, down. This is because of the Dodgers. They're going to use the Dodgers as a scapegoat and say, players, you need to accept this hard salary cap. That's what we're looking at. Todd Davis goes on to say again, I disagree with the drop in interest and attendance, but we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. I believe television ratings will spike and attendance will increase across the league, especially in games that involve the Dodgers. Not only that, the interest in MLB from Japan, Korea, and Taiwan has exploded since Ohtani and Yamamoto signed with the Dodgers. And the signing of Sasaki and Hae-Sung Kim will only increase the interest in that region. I could totally envision a rivalry developing between the Mets and the Dodgers if Stearns is allowed to do his thing in New York. Soto with the Mets is the perfect foil to Ohtani and the Dodgers. Look at what Magic and Bird did for the NBA. And at that time, the NBA was practically on life support. And if not for the Mets, the Yankees, Red Sox, or Phillies need to step it up and become that rival. What the Dodgers are doing is not something that cannot be duplicated by other teams. If anything, East Coast markets should have a financial advantage over West Coast teams with its higher population density and greater fan interest. It's all up to the respective ownership groups to decide to do it. And again, I don't think the Dodgers are going to dominate the sport as much as everyone believes. I'd be surprised if they win 3 rings in the next 10 years. Way too easy to be knocked out in a 5-game series by a team peaking at the right time. And the times the Dodgers don't win will be celebrated by all the non-Dodger fan bases across the country. So I want to take that. I want to take it bit by bit. Okay. If the fan bases have zero hope of winning, they're not going to take their warm summer nights and spend them watching the slowest sport in North America. Besides soccer, but soccer's not a real sport. Sorry.
Real sport, not this.
I think I said that out loud. People in this microblogging age of Narcigram and TikTok, a lot of people don't want to sit down for even 2.5 hours with the pitch clock and sit down and watch baseball. They could be literally doing anything with their summer, especially if there is no hope for them to win a World Series. And I'm telling you that whether or not on paper the Dodgers could possibly lose, if the perception of people is that the Dodgers have no chance to lose, then they're not going to spend their time and money on the Major League Baseball product. Not in the way of before. And we're not talking about 50% revenue drops. We're talking about somewhere between, 5 and 20% revenue drops. Manfred claims he wants to grow the sport. Significant percentages of revenue drops throughout the league, not for the Dodgers, is not good for the league. And the owners are counting on that. The owners are allowing this to happen on purpose to ensure that the Dodgers run roughshod over everybody so that they can say, see, this system doesn't work. We need a salary cap. So one of the things that I strongly disagree with is he said, if Stearns is allowed to do his thing in New York, Soto with the Mets is a perfect foil for Ohtani and the Dodgers. David Stearns, as I've already said, has drank his own Kool-Aid. David Stearns believes that he is the smartest baseball mind who ever lived. And he is making a lot of questionable decisions with this team with the Major League roster. I can't speak to the decisions that they're making as far as drafting prospects. From what I've seen, that's pretty good. But at the Major League level, he is trying to take shitty, underperforming players and then thinking that he is going to get more out of them than what they're capable of. When Snell and Burns was available, he didn't want to get guys who have already proven themselves to be perennial winners. He wanted to go out there and get pitchers who perform poorly. So when you say that Soto is the perfect foil to Ohtani and the Dodgers, Soto would be the perfect foil to Ohtani. But Soto and Lindor are not going to be two players that overcome 14 All-Stars on the same team. When you look at the ratios of All-Star level players to the rest of the rosters, you remember when LeBron took his talents to Miami, he said not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7. The Miami Heat had the triumvirate of LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. Do you know what they did with the rest of their roster besides, I believe, Mario Chalmers, who was their first round pick back then? You know what they did? A bunch of league minimum players. So your roster has 15 players on it. You can only dress 12 players that are eligible to play in an NBA game on your team. So you had 3 all-star level players out of 12. That's 33%, and they were dominant. They won 2 championships back-to-back. When you look at the Seattle Mariners that you spoke of before, they had a couple of good players, if I'm not mistaken. Wasn't like Ken Griffey Jr. on that team too, if I'm not mistaken? Jay Buhner. They had a couple of really good players on the team, but they didn't have half the team be all-stars. Not even the Yankees did that. And the Yankees were trying to buy all the league's all-stars. And it just so happened that they would try to buy one every offseason. The Dodgers have bought 6 in one offseason. And when I'm not even counting Sasaki. So to say that 2 all-star level players are going to be the perfect foil to the Dodgers, 2 all-stars versus at least 14? You have 5 number 1 starters in your rotation. That has never been seen before in baseball. So to expect that they're gonna magically just all forget how to play baseball when they're the game's top players, that's not logical to me. Look at what Magic and Bird did for the NBA at the time. The NBA was practically on life support. Well, they were the reason why the NBA was on life support. Understand that the league didn't really become very popular until Michael Jordan came. They were playing on tape delay in the Magic and Bird years. They were on tape delay. And why was that? Because there were only 2 teams vying for the championship. No other teams had even a prayer. It was just going to be Lakers or Celtics. That's all there was, which is one of the reasons why the players didn't make a lot of money back then and the games were on tape delay. They didn't have a whole lot of fan interest until the Detroit Pistons kind of broke through a little bit and the emergence of Michael Jordan. But, you know, if Michael Jordan did not quit baseball after the 1993 NBA Finals, you could have had the interest in NBA basketball go down if the Bulls are winning 8 times in a row. But even in those series where the Bulls were winning three-peats, they were really tough, really competitive games. And they only had 2.5 all-star level players on the team. Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. And the half would have been Horace Grant, or who was eventually replaced with Dennis Rodman. And those were dominant teams. They went 72-10. And they didn't have a bunch of all-stars on one team. They just had Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman grabbing rebounds. Dennis Rodman averaged 5.4 points a game during his tenure with the Chicago Bulls. He played his role. He was a role player. I mean, he did average 14 rebounds, but he was a 5-point-a-game scorer. There was at least the feeling that somebody could knock off the Bulls. Well, they only had 2 all-star level players, 2.5 all-star level players out of 12 on an active roster. The Dodgers are going to have 14 out of 26 minimum. We've never seen lopsided super teams. Even the super team era of the NBA had a big 3 out of 12. That is 25% of the roster. Just 25% of the roster. More than 50% of the Dodgers roster are going to be dominant players. We've never seen this in North American pro sports before, and that's why this is different. And the owners are letting this happen on purpose. So, I can't agree, right? I do agree that what the Dodgers are doing can be duplicated, but I just think that we're not going to be looking to see how many championships the Dodgers win in the next 10 years, because according to the MLB owners, they're not looking 10 years out. They're looking at the next collective bargaining negotiation, which is only a couple of years away. That's what they're looking for. They're not looking for how many World Series the Dodgers win in the next 10 years. They don't care about that. They don't care about winning the World Series, most of them. They care about making a profit. And you know how you can get profits to go up? By keeping players' salaries down. And that's not something I want. But thank you, Todd Davis. Shout out to you, brother. I hope you stick around. We're going to go to the next comment from Yuping 1946. He said, I hear Dodgers fans are bringing up names like Munetaka Murakami and Shunpeita Yamashita. The LA Dodgers are about to become the Tokyo Dodgers. So whose fault is that? The Dodgers are a preferable place for the elite of the NPB. They did their due diligence. They got Ohtani. And now everybody wants to play with Ohtani and Yamamoto. And now Sasaki. Well, whose fault is that? It's not the Dodgers' fault. So I'm not going to complain about that. But thank you for the comment. John McIntyre says the Mets owner has a lot of money. They could be doing the same thing. Don't be mad because the Mets spent all their money on a guy who will be a DH in a few years. Common misconception. Understand that I am not mad because of which team is doing it. If Steve Cohen ran up a $450 million roster with a bunch of Hall of Famers on it, and there was no reason to believe that we could lose logically, my reaction would still be the same. But I think that you're wrong on Soto. Soto is a slightly below average fielder, so he's not going to be a DH in a few years. If you look at all the metrics, his only real deficiency on defense is the way that he reads fly balls off the bat. He takes poor routes to them. He can be coached. He's still very, very young. He's still going into his age 26 season. He's going to be a better defender. So I'm not worried about that whatsoever. But yes, the Mets owner could be doing this, but remember that they created the fourth level of the competitive balance tax, and they called it the Steve Cohen tax because they were afraid that he was going to go and buy up all the players. Now, it would be nice if I could see the Mets win a World Series for once in my life. Do you see all this gray hair on my chin?
I'm old.
I've never actually seen a Mets World Series championship. I was born in 1983. They won in 1986. I've never actually seen a championship. So I would like to see one, but I don't want to see one at the cost of the entertainment value of the sport. I don't need Hall of Famers at every position. So, I just want to clear up that misconception. Captain Paul 91, how you doing, brother? He is the other half of the Talking Shit podcast. He says exactly how I felt about the NBA when Kevin Durant joined the Golden State Warriors. The Dodgers are the best team in MLB, but by a large margin. Teams will be competing to finish as the runner-up. There is really no reason for even the high spenders of Major League Baseball to consider spending money now, more money than they've already spent, when they all know that the Dodgers have already locked up the championship. If you can get front office executives to speak on condition of anonymity, and you ask them what their outlook was for the year, and you ask them what chance does any team have to beat the Dodgers, more than a few will tell you the season's already chalked. Vasquez OVJ65, how you doing, brother? He says, Dodgers fan here. Congratulations. The Dodgers will not likely win 130 games. More like 105 to 115. Second, the Dodgers do not have a monopoly on all the talent in Major League Baseball. They can only carry so many players. If you think that there are only 26 players worth watching, then MLB has bigger issues than the Dodgers. Third, the Dodgers are no way guaranteed to win the 2025 World Series. The Dodgers and Dodgers fans are well aware of how easily you can get eliminated from the playoffs. Also, don't be surprised if Major League Baseball ratings go up, if anything, from fans from the other teams watching their team try to win against the Dodgers. Your rant concerns should be directed toward the owners, not the Dodgers, who have not found some magical loophole or have been cheating to acquire talent. Everything the Dodgers have done could also have been done by all Major League Baseball teams. The Dodgers ownership has already stated that they want to win more than their fans. So instead of looking at what the Dodgers have done as gloom and doom, perhaps it should be seen as a wake-up call to all those cheap owners that have instead sat back and watched what the Dodgers have done instead of competing by investing in their teams. For that, the Dodgers and Dodgers fans would like to thank all 29 MLB baseball teams for making it so easy to build a super team. Okay, so again, congratulations to you on winning the 2025 World Series. He says the Dodgers, first he says the Dodgers would not likely win 130 games. If the Dodgers won exactly 130 games, that means that they will have to lose 32 games. Okay? If they won 120 games, that means they would have lost 42 games. If they won 120 games, that means that they would have to have lost 52 games, and if on the low end, like you said, 105, they would have to have lost 57 games. Looking at your starting rotation, where are you going to find 47 to 57 losses? Where are they? Because remember, it is not just your starting rotation that is super dominant. You're likely also going to score an average of 8.5 to 9 runs per game. So if your starting rotation is going to have an average ERA at the very worst 2.50, when you're scoring at least 8.50 runs a game, show me 47 to 57 losses. Where are you going to get them? You have 5 number 1 starters and then lockdown relievers in long relief, in the setup roles, and the closer role. You have to be able to show me 47 to 57 losses. They got to come from somewhere if they don't win 130 games. If you're telling me 105 to 115, you got to show me 47 to 57 losses. It's not there. That's why my over-under is at 130. Second, the Dodgers do not have a monopoly on all the talent in MLB. They can only carry so many players. If you think that there are only 26 players worth watching, then MLB has bigger issues than the Dodgers. But that's not the point that I'm making. Right? Like, that's the first point. Like, if they could carry 30 players, and they would be trying to sign 20 All-Stars. Here's the thing. It's not that there are only 26 players worth watching. Is that when you only have 2 or 3 on a dominant team, maximum 4 dominant players on the entire roster. You might have like an elite closer, a really, really good number 1 starter. Then you have some second tier pitchers that kind of keep it together and eat innings. And then you have, some really good defensive players that don't hit that well. And then you have some guys that hit very well and they're not that good defense. So you kind of have to mix and match. You need to have a defensive replacement for the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. That kind of thing. You kind of have to move things around. The Dodgers are going to have at least 14 players that deserve to make the All-Star game. At least 14. Even the very best teams we've ever seen, max had 4, maybe 5, where people were like, oh my God, could this be the best infield ever? Were they talking about their pitching staff at the same time? No. Were they talking about how great their outfield was? No. We've never seen so many top tier players on one team. So it's not that there's only 26 players worth watching, but it's that usually all the players worth watching are usually spread across.
I have no idea what you just said.
Can I speak English? Speak English? They're usually spread across a bunch of different teams, at least like the top 7 teams. But even they will have a maximum of like 5 all-star deserving players, and then 1 or 2 of those players get snubbed. The Dodgers are going to have at least 14 deserving players of all-star nods. We've never seen anything like that before, and we will never see it again, because the owners are going to make sure it doesn't happen by saying, you accept this salary cap, or we're going to go into an extended lockout where we miss games again. So to say that the other owners could do what the Dodgers are doing, no, because if the owners were all in, then there wouldn't be a Dodgers of this kind of caliber, because we would have talent spread more evenly across the league. So that's where I disagree with you. But at the end, I have to agree with you, Mr. Vasquez, for the last thing you said. The Dodgers and Dodgers fans would like to thank all 30 MLB teams for making it so easy to build a super team. But this is not a super team. This is the Monstars. So, I want to thank everybody that lent their comments to the video. I'm pretty sure there's going to be more comments to that video. I'm going to link the original video in the description and maybe even put it in the top comment. I'm going to make sure that everybody that had responses that were worth responding to, I'm going to make sure that you guys get the due that you're deserving of, because I really did enjoy the back and forth. Here on this channel, we don't just talk about the Boston Red Sox or the New York Mets. We talk about a bunch of different sports. We talk about, this is a place where we do the MMA Filthy Casual Watch Party. So if you're a Dodgers fan who is here to make fun of everybody, but you also love MMA, come join us on Saturdays for the Filthy Casual MMA Watch Party in support of all UFC events, both the fight nights and the numbered pay-per-view events. We talk about lifestyle, relationships, fitness, and politics on this channel. So if you've got opinions, we want to hear them. In the comments section down below, please tell me what you think about what I had to say here, what you thought about what the Dodgers fans had to say in the comments. And we hope that you guys will stick around, hit the subscribe button, because we're kind of shadow banned. And yeah, can't wait to see what you guys have to say next.